ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Everyone is comfortable? How many of you have heard about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Please raise your hands. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written some beautiful poems. Yes? These poems are in very simple Bengali language, and they explain philosophy through ordinary events that happen in people's lives. Now in Bhagavad Gita, sometimes Krishna says, stand up and fight. That may not happen in our lives. Do you think it happens? Yeah. So then we have to explain that actually our life is like the Kurukshetra battlefield, isn't it? And we have to fight against the various tendencies that distract us from being very productive in life. So when we say that, everyone from 5 years of age to 95 years of age typically falls asleep. Why is that? Because life really is not like that, is it? Not every day you have to fight with your senses. so much. Do you have to fight with your senses so much every single day? Everyone has to fight. Like every day you have to fight how to control your sense of taste, or do you just make do with whatever is available to eat? What happens?
Typically, we cook something we like, or we would like to offer.
Typically you cook what you like,
Or we feel like offering.
what you feel like offering. So is your house like a grocery store? It has all varieties.
Yeah.
Like if I come to your house and I ask for something that I need, will it be available?
Most problems.
What do you think?
Depends. Depends on what we need.
So if I come to your house and say, can you give me mustard oil?
No. No.
See?
We don't need it. Yeah, it's more.
So again I ask you the question, do you cook and eat whatever is there, or do you get confused every day morning because what you like to eat is a new phenomenon, it's a new revelation every morning? Is it like that? Today I like to eat something cooked in mustard oil. How many of you all want to eat food cooked in mustard oil? Do you have a liking for it? Radha Vallabh can cook, yeah. So please don't be always convinced by the narratives that we give you. Now, sometimes we try to explain to you that how life is really terrible. We're all in deep Maya. And then we really have to kind of try and blame ourselves how we are in Maya. Maybe because I eat idli every day, I'm in Maya. Maybe because sometimes instead of idli, I like to eat dosa. See, my senses are completely uncontrolled. But typically, if every day you're going to have something like idli, dosa, pesarattu, or something like that, uh, once every week, it's not that with every idli preparation you're going to have sambar. You may just do it puri. So we have to try and see if philosophy is relevant every day of our lives. To make philosophy relevant every day of our lives, the teachers or seekers or philosophers of the past, sometimes they come up with writings that are much more relatable, very much relatable. For many years, a friend of mine would always wonder what Anala is. Anil. You've heard the name Anil, right? Do you know where it comes from? What does it mean? So I asked somebody, what is Anil? He said the opposite of Neil.
I was about to say that.
Not blue. Nila is fire, like Analaha. Bhumi, Apo.
Anandam.
So earth, water, fire, air, ether. That is how we memorize it. And then they ask us to recite the words, and we are like Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham, Mano, Buddhire, Vacha. And then we have to figure out which is air, which is water. And we do it by elimination. Is it true? Now, if Krishna would have easily, if he had just said Bhumi, Nira, isn't it? Agni, it would have been so easy for us. Like, yeah, these are the five elements: Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Kham. Now, everyone wonders what's Kham. Ether. Now they are wondering what is ether? What is ether? What is ether? And what is space? And what is nothing?
Space is the accommodating element of everything created.
So, what is that?
That is what it is.
Now, if I ask you what is air,
We can define.
I'm not saying you can define, I'm saying that you can help me relate to it. Now, help me relate to space. Yes.
Black matter.
Black matter, see? Is that space?
Space is like a room.
Space is like a
You can
room.
fill it with furniture, like that space you can fill it with all created elements and byproducts of it.
So, what is space Krishna is speaking about? Which room is he talking about?
So that's the example, that's how you relate.
Yeah, I can relate to fire, like fire means it burns, forest fire. When you say a room,
So here room we have furniture, and that space is the universal concept of space which accommodates everything, including like the other elements and the activities of
like matter, all the other elements. How?
When you do a pie diagram, you say so much is for air, so much is for water. Whatever's left, that's all ether.
That's all
Whatever fills everything else, ether. If it's not fire, it's not air, it's not water, it is not any of the other four. That space, that is that vacuum. Not necessarily a vacuum. Whatever fills what's left, all the ether.
Like it's not vacuum, it's air, right?
No, we just define. There's no such thing as nothingness where there's nothing. It's either. We give it that space.
So basically, ether is what is not air, what is not water, what is not. So it is something that is not.
Elimination.
No, I don't think so.
It is something that you can fill in.
Third canto it's explained, right? The ether is like the accommodating room for all the elements, the living entities and their activities.
What does that mean?
That means it's like a space. It's like um,
So you can. That's only for
Still,
so it's
sound will go through, right? Yeah.
ether.
Yeah, either. It stays.
yes, it's the accommodating room or space for everything created. So that's the fifth element which accommodates everything else. So yeah. I mean it's an abstract concept in that sense. Yeah.
So abstract means
You cannot
That-
really define or explain something.
we are trying to explain something that is abstract through a few examples, day-to-day examples. Okay. If I say antariksh, what does that mean?
Space, right? Space.
Antariksha refers to outer space, like
Everything outside of the Earth's
like
atmosphere.
not the Earth plane, but like above. And when you look above into the sky, the space that fills all the stars.
And if I'm in space, what is Antariksha then?
What's that?
So
If
fire
I'm
in
on
space,
the
what is
space
Antariksha?
station, what is Antariksha then?
No, Antariksha refers to certain plane above the Earth planet, and space is all of space. So Antariksha is just a part of it. Yeah, a second one subset of it,
A subset of space is Antariksha.
which is understood to be the place where all the stars, the stars that we look at.
So are we saying that we are describing the outer space from a geostationary point?
That's what Bhagavatam is.
So
Don't
the
have
Earth is stationary,
Don't we have
according to
those
the Bhagavatam.
circles where it goes?
Bhagavatam, according to Bhagavatam, well, Earth is like a part of the Bhumandala, right? The Bhumandala is fixed, it's not moving.
Bhagavatam says Bhumandal is not moving.
No, everything else is moving.
Everything else, like what?
The sun, the moon, the other planets,
So the sun and the moon are not in the Bhumandala; they are outside of Bhumandala.
they're above the plane of Bhumandala.
So they are. So the Bhumandala is the space, is the plane that is fixed, and everything else is either above or below it.
Yes.
So what about the other mandalas then?
Which other mandala?
There's Bhuvar Mandala, there's So Mandala.
They're above. Above or below? Above.
So do they move? And the sun and the moon, are they between, above, below these mandalas?
Just by
sun-
asking questions,
sun
you
is
have
above.
confused us. We have not received any answers. We certainly are not sure of our answers now.
The sun is above. The above.
The sun is above.
Bhur and Bhuvan.
I will give blank paper. Please fill it. It's ether. No, what is ether? Blank paper. You can fill it as you wish.
All right. Let me leave it at that. Ask me again, because I cannot leave it open-ended, right? But I'll come to something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Vidyara vilase katainu kala parama sahasayami. তোমার চরণ না ভজিনু কভু এখনো শরণ তুমি.
Can we see the verse too?
You want to see that verse?
Or we can take a song.
What is KK songs?
It's a collection of
All the Vaishnava Acharya songs.
Online? Yeah, then you should be able to find it. So, Thakur Bhaktivinoda here is saying that great enthusiasm has spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet, O Lord. Now you are my only shelter. What is mundane learning?
textbook learning, whatever we learn in universities and schools.
That which is not connected to the soul.
Ah,
And what knowledge is not connected to the soul?
Which doesn't explicitly talk about the distinction between soul and matter.
Hmm. All right. With great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet, O Lord. Now you are my only shelter. So, is it possible that he's explaining the process of learning has some inherent attraction for many people?
He was a magistrate, he was a judge. He spent quite a few years studying to get there. And like he says, he enjoyed studying. It didn't bring him any closer to God.
So you're saying that he is explaining his own.
Literal translation, that's how it is. If I
Okay,
took it at face value.
all right.
The meaning, Prabhu?
Vidyara Vilase.
That's how.
Katrainu Kala?
Hmm. Katainu Kala. I spent my time. You've heard that? Time katta nahi, time अच्छे से कट गया. Katainu Kala. Now, if I say time spent, how relevant is that compared to time cut gaya?
Time cut gaya is when you're having sanskarification and a lot of Gramya Katha and basically spending, wasting time with
And I
people.
spent my time with great enthusiasm.
Yes. Wasted
Which
my
which
time.
one seems a little more relevant according to our experiences in the world? More relevant, I say. More relevant to us personally. Time cut gaya, or I spent my time with great enthusiasm.
I spent my time with great enthusiasm.
That is more relevant.
Pick and choose.
So whenever you're talking with your friends, especially colleagues, you always try to explain your feelings in English, or sometimes you also switch to a common language that you have grown up in.
Depends on how many people are there.
As I said, do you switch to a common language that all of you grew up in?
Yes.
What helps you explain?
Yes. We switch to a language that is easier to connect to.
So that is the difference between Sanskrit and Prakrit. If Sanskrit is the language that you have learned to express yourselves in, then that is the one that you feel most comfortable with. If Prakrit is the bhasha or the language that you grew up in, that is where you, or that is what you turn to when you have to explain certain things that you're not able to explain in the
Right?
adopted language. So Katainu Kala, Kala is time. Yes? Now what seems more relevant? Kala or time in terms of wanting to make spiritual advancement? Don't waste Kala, don't waste time. Kala will come anytime. What makes it a little more, let us say, relatable? The word time or the word Kala? So, do we describe that at death, Kal comes or time comes? Your time is up. Is that more relatable? Or is it more relatable that it is it was their Kal? So, time cycle or Kala Chakra?
Kala Chakra, because Kala covers larger sense. And I'm using it for shorter phases of time, like my life.
I'm just asking you to, I'm just having this conversation to understand what is Sanskrit and what is Prakrit.
Time.
Thank you.
So, time cycle, like there are, the time cycle is, the time is kind of taking away a life, or the Kala Chakra is taking away, which is more impactful for you?
Kala Chakra. Because that resonates.
So, when we have Prakrit with us, and if we try to adopt that, which is a new language for us, the application of that has more chances of bringing us to the mundane realm.
Can you repeat that?
If we are trying to express ourselves in a new language, there are more chances that we may try to, or we may find ourselves dealing with the mundane realm, because we are trying to do things that, or we are trying to explain the situation in ways that would make us feel understandable, or that would make us understandable to others. Therefore, you go on trying to learn newer and newer words. And to learn the new words, you have to know its application. And to know its application, you have to relate more to the mundane world. And the more you relate to the mundane world, the more your senses come in contact with the mundane world. However, if you learn to express yourselves, especially in terms of spiritual life, in the language that you're most comfortable with, learn. You may accept the teachings in another language because most probably that is how it is being received. However, if you learn to express yourselves in the language that you're most comfortable with, there are greater chances that you will relate to the spiritual activities because you don't need any more resources. So, what is mundane learning?
New things, new languages. Oh wow.
That is why there's great enthusiasm. It is not just about knowing newer aspects of physics or artificial intelligence. It's about learning concepts in a different language too.
You're saying you should be more satisfied with what you have and stay focused on.
I'm not saying that. I'm trying to understand this from a perspective that is a little new for all of us. Otherwise, general understanding is mundane learning, whatever everyone does outside of this house, those neighbors there. Obviously, that is there. How does it apply to us? All right. So, Vidyara Velase Katainu Kala Parama Sahase Ami. Sahas. What is Sahas?
Relish, right?
Courage.
Sahasik. Okay.
Sahas. Adventure, courage.
Courage.
Now try to understand what he's saying about Vidyara Vilas. Here he only says Vidyara Vilas. We are translating it as mundane learning.
Vilas. Vilas is
Come to Sahas. The audacity.
Ah, with which I am.
The audacity. Compare audacity with enthusiasm.
Mm, changes.
Now it changes your perspective a little more, right?
Yeah.
And it is so audacious that I try out all these new experiments, mundane learning, and I'm enthusiastic about it. Okay? What does it do? Na bhajino kabhu. It takes away precious time from
Worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord.
remembering. Here, bhajino is about remember, although it has been translated as worship. Because Vidyara Velase, what does all these efforts at mundane learning do? It makes us focus our attention on that than on Krishna. So we do not remember Krishna, and suddenly when we remember him, we forget to understand it. Hey, I missed out on my evening arati,
Yeah.
or I still have 4 rounds to chant. That is how. Now, if you take a literal translation, you can just sleep with the thought that, yeah, someday I also have to have the mood of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. You try out another perspective and it becomes a little more relevant. Oh, all right. This kind of audacity may not be helpful. This kind of sahas, parama sahasayami. That is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to express. Parama sahasayami. This is the kind of enthusiasm that I have towards mundane learning. What audacity! There's so much utsah. All right. So therein, he says something very interesting. A few verses down, yes, a few paras down. Actually, because these are not verses. Three, three, three.
Jada Vidya.
जड़ विद्या जत मायार वैभव तुम्हारो भोजने बाधा. Here is speaking of Jada Vidya. So here is a reference to Vidyara Vilas. So if you're wondering how did we translate Vidya as mundane learning, in 3 he explains Jada Vidya. You know what is Jada Vidya? English translation that we generally have is
Material.
material learning. What is Jada Vidya? You know, you have ever heard of Jada?
Matter.
Matter. Jada?
Without
Which doesn't
life.
have consciousness.
No
Jada.
active.
Jada.
Inactive.
Now, for material knowledge, when you use the term material knowledge, does material easily bring in the understanding that it lacks consciousness, spiritual consciousness? When you speak of Jada Vidya, when we are not conscious of what? Here it is Krishna. So Jada Vidya Jata. Jata means since the time or this Jada Vidya. Jata is actually Yata. But because he's Bengali, he'll say Jata. Not he is Bengali, but this is a Bengali poem. So, Yata Jada Vidya, that knowledge which takes away my consciousness from Krishna. Now, if I say that knowledge which is material, I may be a little passive about it. When I say that knowledge which takes away my consciousness from Krishna, I may feel a little motivated about it. Isn't it? So, Jada Vidya. Sometimes Jada is also known as used in conjunction with Chetana, Jada Chetan. When your consciousness is practically that of an unconscious being, that is called as Jada Chetan. Practically, your consciousness is like that of stone or dead matter. All right. So, Jada Vidya Jata Mayara Vaibhava. Mayara Vaibhava. What is Mayara Vaibhava? What is Vaibhava?
Glory.
It means all the attractive features of Maya. What is Maya here? The translation is material energy. Isn't it? How is it more relatable to us? The attractions of the new forms of learning that we are having. Isn't it? Let me see. first time I got introduced to Bengali. Every S is a sh for them. There's no soft S for them. It's always the harsh S, isn't it? So if it is, and they do not have half vowels in their pronunciation, correct? So the first time I learned Bengali, I got introduced to Bengali because came to Krishna consciousness. So typically I would have said Swami. I come to the Bengali pronunciation. Now I make an effort to say Shami. Prabhupada Shami. Right? It takes my mind away for some time from the practice of, let's say, chanting, worship. Now, if I would just say Prabhupada Swami, I can focus. So, Mayara Vaibhava. What is Mayara Vaibhava? Trying to adhere to a concept that I have developed is what is expected of me. What is expected of me is now, instead of Swami, I say Shami. Shukadev Goswami. If you've heard Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he says Shukadev Goswami. And he'll say Shukadev. Shukadev Goswami. Now, because I have taken initiation from him, I make it my birthright to call Sukdev Goswami Shukadev Goswami. What is happening here? I'm focusing more on the external than what Sukdev Goswami is trying to reveal. Now, if I had never been exposed to Goswami, if I had never been exposed to it, then I may pick up that accent. Like in India, I grew up saying biology. Here, I have to make an effort to say biology. I'm like, biology. So if I had to chant Hare biology, Hare, I would feel more comfortable saying Hare biology, Hare biology, Hare biology, Hare biology. But then if I have somebody who's very revered up there who says Hare biology, then that is how I'd want to pronounce. All of this could take away my attention from Krishna. This is Mayara Vaibhav. This is how clever she is. This is how powerful she is. Or, in other words, this is how she can so easily bring us to our true colors. Yes? So, Jada Vidya Jato Mayara Vaibhavato Mar Bhojone Badha. They are impediments to your practice of spiritual life. That is English. Now let us come to Prakrit. Badha.
Troublesome.
Yeah, that is the translation, but Badha.
Troublesome. Great burden.
If you're traveling somewhere on the road and somebody just comes in between and you have to say, would you say, hey, what an impediment? Or would you say, hey, badha? So much badha here. So when you say badha, you actually understand that there could be a huge wall right there stopping you. If you say impediment, that may or may not be the way you visualize it. Yes. So I'm just saying the Prakrit. Now, those who don't have any idea of the regional languages of India, which all sprout from Sanskrit, somewhere or the other, some of them have about 20% Sanskrit words, some of them about 70 to 80% of Sanskrit words. The grammar of most of them is similar. Most of the regional languages in India. Now, if those who have never grown up with the regional languages of India, for them these words will only sound meaningful when they read the translation. Unfortunately, the translation is someone's understanding of these words. They haven't grown up with these words.
That's why we say it's lost in translation
Sometimes lost in translation. Now, because Sanskrit forms a major part or a small part of every regional language, you'll find some of these words there in your native tongue. So try and relate to that. Many Bengali devotees would be more versed with these bhajans than the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, you can find many poems which you are well versed in Telugu and you feel more related, you find it more relatable to the concepts of the Bhagavad Gita than the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Because at the end of the day, you have to practice Krishna consciousness according to how you feel connected to Krishna, not how you've been told by how someone else feels, and therefore you have to adopt that. You understand what I'm saying? It is not about how someone else who feels that you've been told, and you have to adopt that. You have to understand according to your own vocabulary what their feelings are and translate it into how you are going to express your feelings. Is that all right?
How does that apply with listening to your Guru Maharaj lectures, especially in ISKCON, where our Guru Maharajas are completely different from us?
In ISKCON, we have spiritual masters. I think all of them, there's a variety.
Yeah, it's quite a variety. So when we work with them, what I'm saying is, Maharaj has so many disciples. Some are Telugu speakers, some are Bengali speakers, some are different.
No.
Maharaj
Again,
is
again,
a
again.
native English speaker.
Sorry to cut you off. Again, what I'm saying is that I, as a disciple, have many spiritual masters. I'm not saying a spiritual master has many disciples.
So you can choose the language of it. You have choice.
That is what ISKCON is.
Whom you can connect with.
I'm not even saying connect with. What I'm saying is what you can adopt to have your own understanding or practical application. All right? Let me make it very simple. Let's say I never ever liked a particular preparation in my life. I come to Krishna consciousness, I realize that in a particular place, the Supreme Lord has performed the pastime of accepting that particular preparation. So, am I going to accept that now? Saying that, okay, this is surrender.
Yeah, right?
You don't have
And what
to.
are you
You
surrendering?
don't have to, right?
You don't have
That's
to.
what I'm amazed. He says you don't have to. For me, it's that's a huge debate in itself.
Krishna ate money, doesn't eat mala.
You didn't offer Krishna mud. It's talking
Exactly.
about the fact that
I'm not speaking about mud. So
yeah, he made the changes because it's important to us. Mahaprabhu liked it.
you can develop acquired taste. What I'm saying is, because Krishna has accepted it there, does it mean that Krishna is available only in that form?
That's true. He's there.
Hence, what is it that makes you understand that Krishna is available to you in whichever way you want to surrender to Krishna, according to what you've understood from the previous acharyas? Is that helpful? So, this is the difference between what helps you surrender to Krishna based upon your understanding from the parampara, isn't it? So, Krishna has accepted it. Madhavendra Puri, do you think he spent the rest of his life eating Amrit Keli? I'm not sure. He could have. I'm trying to give pramanas here. Do you think because he wanted to offer Amrit Keli to Gopalji here at Nath Dwara, they've lost that? He couldn't. He couldn't bring it back, right? You know what is Amrit Keli? You know Madhavendra Puri. He was like, oh, if they serve Gopinath ji here Amrit Keli, I'll try and make a similar preparation for Gopal ji there. Gopal ji said, all right, you stay there, keep the chandan there. And most probably, we have not heard whether the what is it called as, not the formula, what is it? When you learn to make a preparation,
Recipe.
the recipe, thank you so much. The recipe, we are not really sure that it went back to Vrindavan or no. All right? Okay, yes.
So this goes beyond just language and linguistics. Right? I think it's universally true for everything we learn in Krishna consciousness, including the service we engage in, and what we can relate with, and what makes us feel connected to Krishna.
Definitely.
We don't
Yes.
have to do what others are doing just because that's the norm or something like that. Right? We can develop our own.
I'm not saying that we don't have to do what others are saying. What I'm saying is that I should know that I always have a choice. It's not about I don't want to do that or I want to do that.
Right, right. But you don't have to.
I have a choice. Why? Because that's Prakrit. Sanskrit is official. Prakrit is that which is Prakriti, that which is natural. So Sanskrit can be Prakrit for those who grew up in Sanskrit. Sanskrit can be the language that Prakrit people adopt.
But why do you use those specific terms, Sanskrit and Prakrit? Because those are like forms of language, right? Like,
Not just languages. They have been used for languages. If you go to the dictionary, Sanskrit is Satkriti, action. Prakrit is also Prakrishtakriti. So both Kriti. So what is Prakrishtakriti? What is Satkriti? Sat is that which is defined. What is Prakrishta? That which is universal. All right? Like we say Kriti or Kar, then becomes Prakar. What is Prakar? Different. So now it includes so many others. All right. So the reason I'm trying to explain this is that when we are reading poems like this, if you are able to relate to certain words, please take those words, take those meanings. You don't have to remember the entire bhajan. All right.
You're saying find what, again, you don't want the word connect, but find what connects naturally to you and use that in your understanding.
I'm trying to Just go through what Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying here. There is the translation given. We have been through the translation. Most of us, because we've been through the translation, we've been through the bhajan. If we are not involved, then that is passive hearing that we do. What can prevent us from passive hearing? Because passive hearing here could also mean mundane involvement. So how do we make it active? Why do we want to make it active? Because that helps us uplift our consciousness. Passive is a very, very slow process. It takes a very long time. Is it alright? So Jada Vidya Jata Mayara Vaibhava Tomara Bhojane Badha. Tomara Bhojane. What is bhajan? Here it has been translated as worship. How do you understand bhajan as?
Anything. Singing.
How do you understand worship as?
Worship is only leading worship.
So bhajan here, what does it mean?
Covers all aspects.
Prakrit bhasha again. Right? That is all here we are trying to relate to. Tomara bhojane badha. Let us see. How is it translated here? Can we go to the translation? All the so-called knowledge of this world is born of the flickering potency of illusory potency of your illusory energy. It is an impediment to the execution of devotional service to you. So, how do you understand devotional service?
All activities keep us connected.
All right. So, tomare bhojane badha. Moha janamiya anitya samsare jiva ke koroe gadha. You know what is gadha?
Story.
Gadha. Gadha.
Donkey. Gada means donkey.
So, this is the Bengali way of saying gadha.
Oh, really?
Because Gada is
Can we go to the translation?
That's why Maharashtra is looking for the
Oh,
Gada
and I
is the
may
story.
already want to enjoy.
Anas. Anas. Godha. You want to be Bengali, so Godha. Now, if you go to rural Bengal, they also say Gadha.
No, this is Gada.
So, moha jonomiya onitya samsare jiva ke koroe Godha. All right. So, Jada Vidya, that which takes your consciousness away from Krishna, it creates moha, illusion. Moha, attachment. These are the two translations that we know. We'll later on see whatever is in the translation. What does moha mean for you?
Attraction.
How?
Having a constant liking, something that calls to you, seeks your active attention.
Where have you used the term moha?
Mother,
Exactly. Other than that, in your moha maya, you've used that. All right. Yes, that is Sanskrit again.
Moha always feels like something that clouds your senses.
Feels like that. How?
Because it overwhelms you.
How?
Whether it's love for Krishna, his beauty that overwhelms you, Madan Mohan, or Moh Maya, where you just You're enclouded in this.
So what is illusion in your native tongue? Telugu? A lot of people are Telugu here. Tamil? A lot of Tamil. So Tamil is a little different. You may not have moha there.
I'm not very good with it also. Illusion is moha in Telugu.
Moha in Telugu, right? So Telugu you can relate to moha.
Yeah, Telugu it's moha.
Because
Because it's still moha.
It's moham? Moham?
Moham is Telugu.
Moham? Moham? Moham, everyone agrees?
Yes, yes.
Whenever you say moham, what kind of feelings do you have? No. Whenever you use the term moham or moham. No, that is because you came to ISKCON. No. Before you came to ISKCON, how would you use it?
It's a strong attachment.
Strong attachment. Before coming to ISKCON, where they told us that moha is illusion, moha is because it is Maya. Before we came to ISKCON.
It means you're totally attracted to something. Yeah, bewildered. Bewildered.
You're not seeing the.
That's how we use it.
You're not seeing the. You're only seeing the surface, not the reality.
Moha Maya is where you use it like that.
Yeah.
Moham, where you say you have a lot of affection or attraction. So wherever there is affection and attraction, it is you investing your emotions, feelings there. Correct?
But it is falsely used in Telugu. Whenever you say that, but Mohanla Padipayada means is a false attraction.
False attraction that is not healthy.
It's not healthy. Yeah, filthy attraction.
So I'm going to ask people who speak Tamil with your relatives and where they do not know English. When you use the word moham, what is the emotion that you have?
You're going away from reality.
Negative, kind of. Now, when you use the word illusion,
It's a very neutral word. It's like
what about your emotions? That is what I'm asking.
sympathize. Very neutral.
Compared to moham.
Sympathizing. He's in illusion. You say that.
So now, if you want to understand what the verse means, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur means, and if you have a word there that you have used in your native language, try to remember that word and the emotions that you have with it. That is what is being expressed for moha janamiya, the kind of attachment that one has for the material world. The next time when you want to say that the material world is very, very illusory, remember moha janamiya or something similar in Tamil or Telugu. Most probably you'll be much more attentive. Yes? So moha janamiya anitya samsare. Anitya,
Not temporary.
temporary. But anitya, what emotions do you have with anitya and nitya?
Basically, it will not continue. It's going to stop at some time.
And temporary?
Temporary means may come and go.
For the time being.
For the time being.
So are you feeling a little more distant from your emotions from the word temporary as compared to anitya?
Yeah.
When you say anitya, you're like, oh my god, yeah, I don't want to spend time here. Temporary, maybe a little time. Because what is temporary? It means
It will go.
smaller span of time. What is anitya?
Won't stay. It's totally different meaning.
No, it's not different meaning.
No, when you approach
For somebody who grows up understanding just temporary and permanent, they understand what it means because they do not have any other conception of existence of time. We have anitya, kshanbhar, nitya. What is kshanbhar? Momentary, temporary. Hence, when we say temporary, because we grew up with kshanbhar, we think it's kshanbhar, and therefore we do not feel as much in what do I say, in dire needs. But when you say anitya, you may feel more stimulated. So whenever you are thinking about Krishna consciousness for yourselves, please equip yourselves with words that really connect with you based on the philosophy that you have understood in parampara through readings of Prabhupada books and hearing through spiritual masters. Is that helpful? All right. So, jiva ke koroe godha, gadha. Jiva ke koroe godha. One becomes a donkey. So now I'll speak about the donkey, ass. All right. What are some of the peculiarities of an ass? I would not want to sound racist here, but we're just trying to understand the context in which ass is mentioned in the scriptures, and you'll be surprised to know that there are both perspectives. One, where we understand an ass to have qualities that you would not want to inculcate, and there are others where you would want to inculcate the qualities that an ass has. So both ways. So we are not trying to be racist here. यथा खरचंदन भारवाही भारस्य वेत्ता न तो चंदनस्य यथा chandana bharavahi, carrying the, yeah, somebody who is constantly carrying loads. So yata khara is an ass or a donkey. Yes. So an ass is used to carrying loads, immense weight, right? Bharasya vetta natu chandanasya. So is carrying sandalwood. The ass does not have an understanding of what is the value of the sandal that it is carrying on its back. Evam hi shastrani bahuni dhitya. Bahuni aditya. Someone who has spent a lot of time. Evam shastrani. We understand shastrani as scriptures. What shastrani means is knowledge. We understand Vedas as books. What Veda means is the ability to understand. We say knowledge, book of knowledge. But Veda basically means the ability to understand. So you can understand concepts. So Vedas are that which helps you understand concepts. They are teachings that help you understand concepts. So Shastrani, it comes. What does Prabhupada say about Shastra? What is the root, verbal root? Shasha Dhatu. He says, what is Shasha? Discipline. So what is Shastrani? Books that teach you ways of life. Discipline means a way of life. So, evam hi shastrani bahuni adhitya, someone who is taking what Bhakti Vinod Thakur has mentioned, Vidyara Vilase. So, not just reading many scriptural books. It is the expression of somebody who's interested in absorbing a lot of concepts. So, evam hi shastrani bahuni adhitya. Similarly, someone who is very much eager to overload oneself with lot of information about the concepts of life. It's not good or bad as yet. All right. Evam, so it is in relationship to the donkey. So a donkey carrying loads is not good or bad. A donkey not understanding what is the load it is carrying is not helpful for the donkey. So that is what is being said here. That evam hi shastrani bahuni adhitya, knowing so many ways, so many concepts of life in our, to make it more relatable, knowing so many different etiquettes, different theories, um, philosophical concepts. Artheshu mudha kharavat vanti. One is artheshu mudha. One is not trying to understand what it means to them personally. Have you heard the story of a scientist? And the scientist is like completely, don't like the mad scientist, mad professor, those terms are used, like they are completely engrossed in the projects. So a scientist, an elderly scientist, is informed that your wife is almost about to give up her body. You might want to just visit her for one last time alive. Just, he says, please tell her to wait. Understand? So somebody who can have that much involvement does not burden themselves with that which is unnecessary. I hope I don't sound very harsh here when I say that scientist is not overburdening himself with that data, but the involvement there, yeah? The involvement there. Puranic example: the great king Janaka Maharaj was about to embark on a conquest. Very important. You have to attend to certain needs of his state. So there was some conquest. So he was about to mount his horse. However, being Janak Maharaj, he had a strong affinity to understand scriptures, or you know uh, accept scriptural knowledge whenever he could. So that moment he sees a great saint called Ashtavakra Muni. So Ashtavakra Muni is a great saint, very very knowledgeable. So he asks him questions, queries about life and what is the goal of life, and so on and so forth. What Ashtavakra Muni speaks as he is mounting his horse. Sometimes when you're on a phone call and you're trying to shut the door behind you and go out into your car, you know how you put the key in the door and you're like, the door is still slightly open and you, that moment. Typically, you'd just pull the door shut and you'd walk away. But because you're very much involved in this phone call, you want to shut the door, but you kind of stop right there and the door is slightly open. Your hand is still there. And you stand there for almost 5 minutes. Experience that? Yeah? Janak Maharaj. And what he spoke to Janak Maharaj is the basis of Ashtavakra Gita. One of the questions that he asked Ashtavakra Muni, it's not very clear during this episode or another time, but he asked Ashtavakra Muni, what is Maya? Kim Maya asti? What is Maya? So when we translate that, whenever we speak about this incident, we say that Ashtavakra Muni was asked, what is illusion? Alright? So what is Maya? Ashtavakra Muni runs and grabs a tree around its trunk, tight. And he says, oh my dear king, please separate me from this tree. Please separate me from this tree. The king is like, oh great sage, just take your hands away. Take it off the trunk. He's like, my dear king, this is Maya. Something that you hold on to and you say, how can I be free of it? So you feel that there are external forces making you hold on to it. There are some supernatural powers that are making. Those supernatural powers are called as greed, unhealthy attachment. They are the supernatural powers. And knowingly or unknowingly, it is we who have given rise to those supernatural powers that are acting on us. All right. So, Artheshu Mudha. What is Artheshu Mudha? We know so many concepts in life without taking out the time to see if we want to apply any one of them in our lives. We want it to be applied in others' lives. Like the earlier the better, we want to be a counselor or a mentor. I mean, I don't want the title, but I would like to be in that position. Isn't it? Many times over the years, after 10 to 15 years, mentors suddenly find that they're always mentoring and never being mentored. And those they are mentoring, they always say, oh, they are beyond mentoring now. So basically, what they are saying that 15 years from now, I will also be beyond mentoring. It justifies that, isn't it? All of this is nothing but the web of illusion that we are building in our lives. Why? Artheshu mudha kharvatvahanti. Artheshu mudha. Having misunderstood or not understood the concepts in terms of application in our own lives. Is it necessary that we have to apply everything in our own lives? Can we not learn from application in others' lives? Yes. However, that cannot be the only food or diet that we subsist on. Sometimes a mother can be happy seeing a child eat and they go hungry. Ekadashi, mothers do that. I'm not speaking of mothers, having to choose between me or my child who gets to eat. Ekadashi. Mothers can fast. They feed the children. But can the mothers do Ekadashi fast every day? So sometimes we subsist on the application of knowledge in other people's lives. Mostly we have to find sustenance by application of knowledge in our lives. Is it all right? Otherwise, we may spend a lot of time accumulating knowledge, and because there is less time for application, we find that bhajan simply is certain formal activities that we do. Certain formal activities. All right. Who is a donkey, an ass in Krishna Leela?
Denkasura.
Dhenukasura. Correct? Poor Dhenukasura. He's never been as famous. Some of the. I'm so sorry. Sometimes Vyoma must be feeling left out. I don't get mentioned as much. What about Kakasura? Absolutely no mention, Bichara. Completely lost to oblivion. Exactly. The crow that came to disturb Mother Sita. Jayanta, yeah. This is how the asuras also slowly fade away, generation to generation, just fade away, and lessons that we can learn. So Dhenukasura, so popular. So what does Bhaktivinoda Thakur say about Dhenukasura? Dhenukasura is the representation of the burden of material knowledge that we accept in our lives, being oblivious to spiritual needs. Being oblivious to spiritual needs. Dhenukasura was Dhenukasur is in the form of an ass. Typically, an ass is used to being a bharvahi, carrying loads, heavy loads. What is Dhenukasura's load?
Here it is carrying Chandan.
Dhenukasura.
He was guarding the Talavan forest for Kamsa. He was guarding the forest for Kamsa.
That is a burden that is carrying.
He was carrying the burden of knowledge.
The burden that the Dhenukasura mentality carries is this property belongs to such and such, and no one else has access to it. Not even God. So this is Kansa's property. I'm Kansa's friend. I will stop anyone from coming into this forest and eating the tala fruit. Let the tala fruit rot. Now, being an ass, he doesn't eat tala fruits. He just eats grass, most probably, or unmentionable things because he's an asu. He will not let anyone else eat that. So that is the load, that is the burden that one carries. All right. So the spiritual master helps us realize that. Yes.
What is the burden, Prabhu, in our context?
This belongs to somebody that is related to me, and no one else has access to it.
False ownership.
False
False
Was
ownership.
on
I hope you love to the brand, but I
And you'll not allow God to access it.
No one, including God, including Krishna. No one has access to it. All right? The spiritual master comes and tells us, you yourself are the property of God. Figure out the rest. If you cannot claim ownership over your own existence as a separate entity, what about everything else that you feel belongs to you? Hence, Baladev is involved with Dhenukasura.
Oh, okay.
Guru.
Guru.
Oh, okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Because if Krishna personally comes, we may not understand. You're like, yeah, you're God, but this is mine. But when Krishna comes as a spiritual master, and like, oh, I'm your shish, I'm your disciple. So please open my eyes, let me have better vision. That is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains Baladev's role, Balaram's role in killing Dhenukasura. Is that okay? So it is all related to carrying unnecessary burden. Alright? So now we have spoken about how the ass, without realizing the value of that the ass has, is wasting one's time thinking that, oh, I'm so beautiful, I've ticked all the boxes. Now definitely I'm going back home, back to Godhead. Why? I've carried this burden so sincerely. Isn't it? we come to what are some things that we can learn from the ass.
So that entire endeavor is now waste. Whatever the donkey has carried all through.
It's not a waste. Why is it a waste? It's just that the donkey doesn't realize the value of what the donkey is carrying. It isn't a waste. Time has been spent, not well spent, not spent in such a way that you could have gotten much more than what you are getting right now.
It's kind of like working without awareness. What the end result is.
Yes.
Ignorance,
Okay.
gross ignorance.
Yes. Definitely.
Prabhu has gone from questioning to agreeing. He started off with nothing but questions. We come to a point where Prabhu is agreeing.
Now, I just want you all to understand the concept through your own words. So if you're understanding it, I don't mind having synonyms here thrown at me. Yes.
So, Prabhu, I was just thinking that as we started off when you were saying that when we when we sing a song or read a shloka without knowing the meaning of it, the effect is going to be there, but not as much as when you actually go into more details. I mean, when you really understand it and say it or sing with devotion. So, can we compare that also?
So what is devotion now?
Um, basically, love for Krishna,
And what is love for Krishna?
thinking about him and remembering him all the time.
Okay.
So I was just comparing that to, so is that understanding? Like the Gada also is carrying the sandalwood with it, right? Well, it's probably sandalwood is going to be used in service of Krishna, then he's going to get the Sukriti anyway, doesn't matter. But then if you can realize that actually I'm actually carrying this sandalwood for Krishna's service, and when he consciously does it, then the effect of it is going to be more. Is that understood?
Well, try to understand it from the ass's point of view. The ass has got other senses too, not just a sense of touch. Sandalwood has some fragrance even when it is not been processed. Regular wood may not have. However, donkeys simply focus on carrying the load, not at least while carrying the load. Feel whatever emotions a donkey can have due to the fragrance of the sandalwood. A donkey never is able to do that. I'm not speaking in terms of, oh, sandalwood has so much of money value or it is um, more valuable in terms of asset, not like that. On the donkey's birth, because these are all niti verses. They just, that is, how do I put it? They're like poems that explain some moral principles or values.
So Prabhuji, okay, I didn't get the concept correctly. Like so, okay, now the donkey, like we are carrying that load of thing, and we are not able to enjoy or identify with the flavor or the scent or the perfume that we are carrying. It could be lack of knowledge or ignorance or
Well, fragrance is easily understood by the sense of smell.
yeah. But if you are not relishing it, so what is the next thing? If you're not relishing it, you're not. So what should we do to upgrade ourselves?
Yeah, I haven't finished. I never said I finished, right? I said now we'll come to what we can learn from the donkey. All right? Okay. अविश्रामं वहेत् भारं शीतोष्णं च न विन्दति स सन्तोष तथा नित्यं त्रीणि शिक्षेत् गर्दभ is a donkey. Trini Sikshit, 3 lessons. First is Avishramam Vahit Bharam. Very dutifully. Very dutifully, a donkey always carries the load. Because the donkey knows that at the end of this entire process, there's going to be some grass there. Just as we know that after every lecture, there's going to be some prasad there. No, I did not. That wasn't sarcasm. Sorry, but we know that is what a donkey knows, that I carry some load. Now, for us, it may be regular wood or it may be sandalwood. For us, it makes a difference. The donkey's point is, I get grass to eat. Correct? So, similarly, many of us, after some time, you're like, anyways, oh, it's not over as yet. When is Prashad? So, we are also trying to carry some load, some burden. What is that? Of being present. At the end, in all instances, Prashad is definitely available for us. What else are we looking for? Are we looking for some fragrance? Then, this quality of the donkey is helpful. Avishramam, without a break, without thinking otherwise that, hey, why should I be the only person to work? So, consistency. Consistency, that is the first thing that we can learn from a donkey. Shitoshnam chana vindati. A donkey is not really disturbed by dualities, especially in terms of heat, cold, or rain. Have you seen donkeys kind of just trudge through the heat, through the cold, through the rains? Yes, donkeys can do that. An ass does that. So the second thing that we can learn from a donkey is Shitoshna Chana Vindati, is not distracted by dualities in life, which is a very good quality for us. What are dualities?
Sukha, dukkha,
Lava, Jaya.
lava, jaya.
I mean, Jaya.
Practical, Prashad, no Prashad. Yeah, sometimes that defines whether we are going to the program or not.
Even with distribution.
Book distribution too. Dualities, no. See, again, I'm not saying that this is right or this is wrong. I'm not saying that, oh, if that is how you are approaching this, it is right or wrong. That is not my business. What I'm saying is, a donkey lives through dualities. We can learn that from the donkey. We've learned certain things from the donkey. Like at the end, there's going to be prashad. Now, can we rise above dualities? Right? Now, some of us may just, prashad is the main thing. That is perfectly all right. Some of us, there are some people who would say that, no, I just come here to listen to philosophy because that is not possible for me to do by myself. I can go home and cook. They have that approach too. Well, obviously, certain people may have opinion about it, like, hey, this is directly offered to the deity here to the temple. And so there are always going to be opinions. What I'm saying is, if we are going to adopt certain disciplines in our life, first, consistency. Second is, we should not be affected by dualities, because a donkey does its job. And third is, sa santosha tatha nityam. Sa santosha tatha nityam.
Always have.
Always a donkey is satisfied. Always a donkey is satisfied. Have you ever seen a donkey having a bad mood? I mean, I'm not saying that they don't have the bad days. What I'm saying is generally, sa santushta cha nityam trini sikshit gardhabhat. These are three lessons that we can learn from the donkey. Consistency, rise above the dualities,
Staying satisfied.
feel satisfied in what you do consistently. A donkey never thinks that, The horse runs faster than me, and the duck simply is volleying around like really so slow. Santushta. You ask a donkey, did you see the horse running? Horse runs? Okay, let it run. Alright? So we have our own disciplines in life. If we are completely occupied, just as a donkey is completely occupied with work, if we are completely occupied with seva service, whenever we hear somebody else do X, Y, oh, these people did such wonderful service, you're like, oh, they do that service? Very good. Haribol. Ayaram Gayaram. You hear that? You express your best wishes. You go back to what has filled up your day. Because if you had anything else, ah, they're getting so much of appreciation. I also need it. You add something more, either to delete, which means you have to start off again as a fresher, or if you don't delete, then you overburden yourself. So inspiration is always helpful till the time we have our day packed. Once we have a day packed, santushtaha. So this would help us practice whatever discipline we have accepted in our Krishna consciousness. संजोगे विजोगे जिनी सुसुख दुख मने गणी तब पदे छाड़े न आश्रय मायार गर्दभ होए माजे न संसार लोए भक्ति विनोदेर से भय. O Lord, a person who in his heart accepts that contact and separation with one's kinsman is the source of true happiness and suffering, and turns away from the shelter of your feet, is truly Maya's ass. Such a person is truly drowning in the world of birth and death. All of this brings fear to Bhakti Vinod. So basically, if there are any examples around us that distract us in being surrendered to Krishna, even if those examples are under the umbrella of Krishna consciousness, if they're distracting us from being surrendered to Krishna, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that those examples are good for devotees. However, for me, it is simply making me Maya's ass. This is my fear, my Lord, that I try to surrender myself according to my own will and choice based upon the understanding given by my teachers. I take ownership of that. However, I cannot do it. I do not have the strength to do it by myself. I always need the protection and nutrition of great personalities. However, I have to take ownership. All right, is it helpful? So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Space, Prabhu.
Space and ether.
What happened to the space?
Space and ether. Yes, thank you. Before questions, is that all right? Yes. Antariksh. Antah iksha. All that you can see and beyond is being accommodated in what is called as antariksh. Although we have started using antariksh as that which is above us. The reason we did that was for a long time we forgot about the possibility of space travel. Because as soon as you travel into space, that which is here becomes a part of Antariksh. For example, if we go into space, even in a balloon, the very earth from where we were saying that Antariksh is there, now is actually a part of Antariksh beyond the balloon. So Antariksha, that which you can see and beyond is being accommodated, is Kham. Kha, that dhatu is which is related to sound or shabda, dhvani. Dhvani gives rise to kha. Therefore, khaga. You know what is khaga? Bird. All right. Birds do not fly in air. They fly in the air that is accommodated in space. Therefore, they're called khagaha. Those who go through kha. Those who travel through kha. So wherever the birds travel, that is also kha. And if you read the scriptures, then Garuda travels. So all that you can see, this earth included, and all that you can visualize and beyond. Because if you're able to travel from here to there, you'll be able to see what is beyond. Antaha iksha. Nothing is beyond space. So space basically is that the gross aspect of the Mahat Tattva expressing itself. Mahat is the complete material energy in its gross form, where the subtle aspects of Man, Buddhi, and Ahankara are gone because they have taken subtle. Subtle means they have their own existence. So anything more that is going to be produced in terms of Sankhya philosophy, that is called as Kham. So when Krishna is expressing Bhumir Apo Anulavayu Kham Manobodhir Manobuddhir Evacha Ahankaritya Me Bhima Prakriti, he is actually referring to Sankhya philosophy there. It is Sankhya. Is it all right? So what is ether? Ether is basically an element according to chemistry. It has been used in the English language to refer to space. What is space? That which we see in which all the planets float. All right.
So it is not void.
If you can see something, it cannot be void, no? If you see something, it cannot be void. So antariksh.
What can we say if object is not there? Space, like we cannot see it. Unless object is there, relative, then only we see it. If I can see you, you can see the field difference. But if you're not there, so I cannot
You can see me, but can you also understand?
the distance. But if you are not there, the wall is there. The wall is not there. Like how do we measure? Like we see in a dark, right? Darkness. If I see in the Amartya night, I don't see anything. I
Yeah,
don't see it's completely dark. The distance comes into the perception only when the other object is there.
yeah. So when I say see, the English language see only uses eyes. We also see through sound.
Yeah.
If I hear someone, I say, "Hey, seems like my friend is coming, is calling out to me." So we see through sound, or we understand through sound too. So all that you see means all that can be reached by sound or light or any forms of energy that travel. Basically, the present concept of space was already explained as come to us. We have now been introduced to come, so we think that come is actually space. So this idea of that which can be reached by your senses and beyond is what is space. And beyond doesn't mean beyond the senses. It means if you can reach till where you think is the outer territory, maximum extent of your reach. If you reach there, you'll find that there's something more to be reached, then even that is accommodated in space.
There is Ananta. It's like Ananta. There is no infinite.
No, it is not Ananta. It is still where your senses can reach. If you can go to that place till where your senses are going now, it's like if you go to a mountain
If your senses reach, if you reach the edge of your senses,
and
then from there you can see something.
something more.
So, but then that
And if you see that something more, then that is also space. If you come to the end of where your senses cannot go beyond that. Now that is where space ends. Okay. So according to science, space is never ending, or maybe it goes into the black hole. It's ever expanding. According to us, the idea of come is that material energy is, in one sense, it is the external energy of the Lord that manifests and unmanifests from the pores of the Lord.
But is it not expanding? From our scriptures that it is expanding, right? Uchvasa and Vishwasa are like that. Uchvasa is like the universe is created.
And what happens to during this swas?
Vishwasa like goes.
So then it contracts.
Yes, means that is what. That is
So it's not just expanding, it also contracts.
Yes. Even in scripture says that space is expanding.
It is limited by the pores of the Lord and the breath of the Lord, no? You understand? It is limited by that.
It's very similar to the concept of how we say the devas have eternal life. We don't have eternal life. To us, it's eternal. Because we don't understand the ending. Within our perception, boundaries are defined by our perception as well.
Sure. Yes.
In the beginning, you were talking about language makes more sense, especially when we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Sanskrit makes more sense, certain words. Sanskrit makes more sense than the English translations. But I'm talking about reading Bhagavatam with the kids. They are growing up here, although they have their mother tongue, English becomes their first language.
Yes.
Even though they're trying to teach our language or Sanskrit, it's not getting enveloped very well. So in this setting, how can we help kids understand Bhagavatam better? Rather than only reading the translation. For now, we're reading the translations, but as they grow up, they have to understand Bhagavatam better. For that, they need to know Sanskrit. Or their local language. My language is Telugu.
Yes.
It makes more sense for me even than reading Sanskrit because most of them are very relatable.
Correct.
So, but the kids, they are not able to get that language. So, my question is, how can we help them understand Bhagavatam in a deeper way? Those who are growing up here, where English becomes the first language.
But won't they understand it with English then? You just said so, right? For one who thinks in English, the depth is there in their English language. We don't get it because we don't understand it with that language.
No, the
Whereas it would be
Tamil.
Tamil.
What is saying is something can lost in translation. But I agree with that.
So if we debate like that, if the debate comes to the point where my Maharaj doesn't understand Bhagavatam as well as me, which is a completely moot point. He's understanding it in English. I'm working it in Tamil.
Maharaj understood.
But he's also acquired that language. He's saying, oh, if I
No, my question is about helping the kids who are growing up here.
It is not Prakrit. It's not about that Prakrit. So today, Prabhu is talking about what is Prakrit language for you.
We're not speaking about understanding here. Please try to understand. We're speaking about how your understanding can bring forth your emotions, your connection.
That's what, how they can be connect with
connect
Bhagavatam.
in English.
Like if somebody tells me that today we have stew, I'm like, okay, STUW, stew for Prashad, stew. I think they call it stew here. I'm not sure. Stew.
Even
I
I
can
don't
give an
understand
example,
Prakrit.
Prabhu.
No,
Shraddha.
but if they tell me it is rasam, I'm like, okay, why didn't you tell me it is rasam? All right.
One example I can give is Shraddha. In English, it is translated as faith. But when you read second canto, chapter 1, There, Shraddha is mentioned as with attention and respect. We need to hear Bhagavatam. Shraddha proper translates us when the word for word meaning he gives us with attention and respect. But we understand Shraddha as attention and respect. Shraddha means it's not faith for me. Shraddha in Telugu means you need like growing up. Whenever we were not focused, the parents and teachers say Shraddha, have some Shraddha on it means have some Shraddha. Shraddha means be attentive.
Correct.
Disciplined also.
Correct.
It's lost. The meaning is lost. Although they're
No,
reading
for us it is lost. For them, faith could practically mean the same thing that Shraddha means for us. Because that is how they understand faith. When they use it in sentences, they relate to the very objects that we relate to as Shraddha. So you should have faith in your parents. We say you should have Shraddha in your parents. You should have faith in God. We say you should have Shraddha in God. So for us, faith is the English language which we acquired. Shraddha is that we grew up with because everyone told us Shraddha, 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 Shraddha. So we use it more in dealings. Then we learned also to use faith in dealings. So we are bilingual. More comfortable in certain circumstances where we are not able to explain that relationship as faith. We say, what is that? Shraddha. Shraddha. What is Shraddha? What is Shraddha? So they say faith. Yeah, faith. Exactly. All right. Because Shraddha brings those emotions within us. For those who grew up here and they're reading a translation, they would also have similar emotions because for them, faith carries a similar sense of being, of existence, the word faith. We have Srila Prabhupada who knows both languages.
and his English is also very deep. It's not like us.
And his English is, I would say, quite helpful in translating what is the import of the verses. It's quite helpful, very much helpful. Whatever is the import comes out in the translation, or at least in the sport words. Is it all right? So, if they read and they can discuss with somebody whose first language is also English, or somebody who has understood dealings in the English language, which could be us, and sometimes when we find difficulties, somebody else that is better equipped to do it, they'll understand the import of it about them. Any other questions, comments?
One comment, Prabhu.
Yes.
So on the same point, Mataji was saying, I think even for English-speaking people, if they can understand Sanskrit and if they can learn the Sanskrit, it will really help them in understanding Srimad Bhagavatam
Yes.
in a much deeper way.
Very acceptable. It will help them understand even those scriptures that have not been translated. It's that is with any language. All right. However, if you think that because they know Sanskrit now they'll better understand because Sanskrit is really more capable of giving understanding. Please understand that Sanskrit, the way we understand Sanskrit, is simply in the form of the Devanagari script. We have really not understood its grammar. We have not understood the application of its grammar. Therefore, somebody who has done that is in a better situation. So when we say because it would help them if they know the grammar of a particular language and application of the grammar, they can relate to those situations. Is that okay? We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Jai.
Yeah.